coming up on Network Africa. Nigeria's Economic and Financial Crimes Commission arrests former Minister of Power Saleh Maman. More people die from suspected Ebola virus as the World Health Organization warns numbers will rise further. Plus, Africa's economic challenges put leadership and governance under the spotlight. Hello everyone, and thanks for joining us. I'm Amarachi Ubani in Lagos. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission in Nigeria has arrested former Minister of Power Saleh Maman, who was declared wanted after his conviction and sentencing in absentia by Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court in Nigeria. The former minister was sentenced to a 75-year jail term over a 22 billion naira fraud linked to the Mambila and Zungeru hydroelectric power projects. Chairman of the EFCC, Mr. Ola Olukoyede, who confirmed the arrest to journalists in Abuja, also revealed that the EFCC will investigate the house where the former minister was arrested.
Okay. I'm happy to announce to Nigerians that at about 3:30 a.m. this morning, we arrested Mr. Saleh Maman somewhere in Kaduna. This is a test of the commitment of the federal government of Nigeria to the fight against corruption in Nigeria, and to assure Nigerians that anyone who has pilfered government or national resources will not go unpunished. And the eagle eye of Economic and Financial Crimes Commission will always catch up with you wherever you are hiding. So it's important for us to let Nigerians know that we are working. There is no area that we will not go into. We will not leave any area unturned or untouched, just for us to ensure that we fulfill our mandate and to assure Nigerians that we will uphold our mandate, ensure that everyone, whether private or public person who has stolen Nigerian money, will be investigated and be brought to book. We have discovered that it was actually being protected all this while. And where we effected the arrest, we've arrested 2 other Nigerians with him alongside. And also the property, the ownership of the property and all of that, they are still under investigation, because it's actually a crime for you to harbor or to protect or to give a protection to a convicted felon.
We'll be back to Nigeria later. Beyond our shores now, Pan-Africanism activist Kemi Siba has appeared in a Pretoria court as his legal team blasts delays in his bail process following his arrest in South Africa. Lawyers say repeated postponements are undermining his asylum application, which they claim has already been filed but not formally acknowledged by authorities. The defense is now pushing for access to refugee officers to complete the process, but the court has refused to intervene, with proceedings adjourned until later this month. Mr. Siba, who faces an international warrant linked to accusations from Benin, will return to court in June as his legal battle continues.
We are not happy, of course. We're not happy with the delays. I mean, we've been in court the whole day today, but at the same time, it's out of our hands. Unfortunately, we're dealing with the system here. And to a large part, the system is out of our hands. You know, there's multiple government departments at play here, and one of them being the Refugee Center and Department of Home Affairs, who are not a party to these proceedings. And the bureaucracy involved is that there's a lot of hurdles to go through. And, you know, the asylum application has been submitted to the Department of Home Affairs. It was submitted to them via email. It was also sent to them physically by hand. to the refugee center here in Pretoria early last week. We haven't received any formal response or acknowledgement to that. So to answer your question, of course, there's unfairness from them, because we would expect, at least, at the very least, expect an acknowledgement and some kind of communication from them to say that now that we've received this, let us know what is outstanding and the way forward. But we've received nothing from the Department of Home Affairs. And of course, that is prejudicing Mr. Siba, and it is unfair. So, as has been made out in his presentation to the court, his bail affidavit, Kemi Siba, what we believe, has made out a case for possible asylum in South Africa. That asylum application, of course, in terms of the Refugee Act, needs to be processed, captured, and the Department of Home Affairs needs to make a decision. The difficulty is that he is incarcerated at the moment and he can't report there. The request to the court today was that because of the delays encountered in this matter, that we requested the court to make an order or to issue a directive to the state for the investigating officer to book Mr. Siba out of the detention facility and to take him to the refugee center so that he can at least have the opportunity to exercise his right to fully submit and process his asylum application. We were informed by the courts that it would not get involved in that process.
Well, the World Health Organization says Ebola cases in eastern DRC have risen to around 600 suspected infections and 139 deaths, with the outbreak now confirmed in both the DRC and in neighboring Uganda. Well, earlier today, Director General of the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, declared the expanding Ebola outbreak a public health emergency of international concern. He is, however, stressing it does not constitute a pandemic emergency. Dr. Ghebreyesus made the announcement today in Geneva, Switzerland.
I determined that the situation was not a pandemic emergency, which is the new and highest classification under the amended international health regulations. After declaring the FIC, I immediately convened an emergency committee under the IHR, which met yesterday and agreed that the situation is a public health emergency of international concern, but is not a pandemic emergency. WHO assesses the risk of the epidemic as the high at the national and regional levels and low at the global level.
While Ebola is not a new problem in the DRC, health authorities face unique hurdles because laboratory testing or sequencing has confirmed the cases are driven by the rare Bundi-Buyo Ebola virus. In the meantime, the DRC authorities have tightened border controls at crossings near Goma. Travelers are being screened as officials move to contain possible cross-border transmission. At least 131 deaths have been recorded, with hundreds of suspected infections linked to the rare Bundi-Buyo strain, now classified as a regional public health emergency. Residents say the restrictions are already disrupting trade and livelihoods along the frontier. Well, neighboring Rwanda has intensified health screenings and tightened movements along its border with the DRC. Residents of the Rubavu district say the tighter controls are affecting livelihoods. They're also disrupting trade, saying they would like the government to find a solution so that they can transport goods normally across the border while still taking precautions. Others say the restrictions are forcing traders to leave goods at the border for transporters on the Congolese side to collect, reducing profits and increasing losses. Well, back to the World Health Organization. Health authorities warn that the scale and speed of the Ebola outbreak remain deeply concerning while investigations continue into how it all began. Health teams are now reinforcing surveillance and community response efforts across affected regions.
We have now significant uncertainty about the numbers of infection and how far the virus has spread As of today, we have more than 500 suspected cases, included 130 suspected deaths that have been reported by the health authorities. So far, 30 cases have been confirmed in the country. The outbreaks now affect 10 health zones in Ituri provinces. It has also reached North Kivu, with confirmed cases in Butembo and in Goma. As I mentioned, Uganda has also confirmed 2 imported cases. I don't think that we have the patient zero for now. What we know for now is that on 5th of May, there is a person who died in Bunia. The body was brought back in Mongwalu, and that body was put in a coffin. And then the family decided that the coffin was not worth the person, and therefore what they did, they changed the coffin, and then there was the funerals, and it's from where it started. We are also at the international level looking at what candidate vaccines or treatment are available, and if any could be of use in this outbreak. There is this afternoon a WHO technical advisory group that will meet to provide further recommendation to WHO and its member states on which potential vaccine should be prioritized. Erbevo is one of the potential vaccine that is looked for eventually be able to come and bring additional prevention and protection among the communities here. Yes, it is. But what I know is actually it would take me. What I know from WHO, it would take 2 months for it to be available.
So the WHO is also ramping up emergency response to the Ebola outbreak in the DRC, airlifting 12 tons of critical medical supplies into affected regions from its Nairobi emergency hub. WHO has begun shipping tents for treatment centers, personal protective equipment, and infection control materials to frontline health workers battling the Bundibugyo strain. At least 4.7 tons were flown into Bunia, with logistical support from UN aircraft as reinforcements continue to arrive in waves. Officials say the mission is urgent: protect responders, contain transmission, and prevent the outbreak from spreading further into vulnerable communities. Still ahead on Network Africa. Told you we'll be back in Nigeria. The Lagos State government commemorating the 2026 World Hypertension Day with a free medical outreach. Stay with us. Welcome back. A major diplomatic shift is unfolding in the Horn of Africa and in the Middle East as Somaliland announces plans to open its first ever embassy in Jerusalem. A move follows Israel's recognition of the breakaway region in late 2025 and signals rapidly deepening ties between the two sides, including plans for Israel to establish a mission in Hargeisa. Somaliland, which declared independence from Somalia in 1991, but remains largely unrecognized internationally, says the steps reflect growing cooperation and strategic alignment. But the decision is already stirring concern across the region, as analysts warn it could heighten geopolitical tensions along one of the world's most sensitive maritime corridors. Also back in South Africa, scores of foreign nationals in Durban have gathered outside a refugee reception center demanding protection from law enforcement authorities amid growing fears for their safety. The demonstrations come in the wake of recent anti-immigration marches staged in parts of the country by several civic organizations. On Tuesday, tensions escalated when the group marched to the Durban Central Police Station, where police dispersed protesters using rubber bullets. Meanwhile, President Cyril Ramaphosa, while paying tribute to foreign nationals for their solidarity during South Africa's struggle against apartheid, stressed that the country did not win its freedom alone.
The order of companions of O.R. Tambo, recognizes eminent foreign nationals for friendship that they have shown to our country over many years. We did not win our freedom alone. We were carried by a great tide of human solidarity that stretched across our continent and the entire globe. We owe a great debt to the many leaders, peoples, and nations who supported us. By honoring them with the national orders, we reaffirm our enduring commitment to peace and friendship with all nations based on our shared values of equality and dignity. We welcome our recipients of the Order of the Companions of O.R. Tambo, who are with us today, and the families who have also passed away, or the families of those who have passed away. On the day that the Constitution was adopted 30 years ago, I said that it is the mirror of South African society, reflecting both the history from which we have emerged and the values of human dignity, equality, and freedom we now cherish.
South African President Cyril Ramaphosa. Here in Nigeria, the Lagos State government has commemorated this year's World Hypertension Day in Ekpe, Lagos State, by bringing quality healthcare closer to families with a free medical outreach and reinforcing progress in the state's fight against hypertension. The Permanent Secretary, Health District 3, Dr. Monsurat Adeleke, made this known during the commemoration of World Hypertension Day at the Ekpe Local Government Secretariat with the theme, Controlling Hypertension Together. She says 54% of all people currently being treated for hypertension in the entire district are residents of the community.
Residents of Ekpe area of Lagos are benefiting from the free medical outreach put together by the Lagos State Health District 3 in commemoration of the 2026 World Hypertension Day to help them know their health status. The residents had the opportunity to check their blood pressure, sugar level, among others. They expressed gratitude to the government for bringing healthcare delivery to their doorstep.
I thank the Executive Governor of Lagos State, the Primary Care Center Board, and District 3 for bringing this program to Ekpe to meet our people face to face.
We are giving drugs as well for those that have high blood pressure. And this exercise is very, very good indeed. It helps the less privileged people.
The Permanent Secretary, Health District 3, explained factors that trigger hypertension, a condition that sometimes leads to stroke.
The reason why Mr. Governor has sent us here to start with Ekpe local government is because we found out that screening in our data, 54% of the residents of Ekpe have high blood pressure. We've told them the numbers that cause stroke and all sorts of other ailments if they have hypertension. But it's no longer a death sentence. So far they are aware of it, and they make sure that they accommodate the life changes. Like we say that they should reduce their salt intake, they must do daily exercise.
Similarly, Health District 3 also kicks off its quarterly school health program in Ekpe Grammar School by providing free healthcare services to students and teachers, which include eye screening, dental checks, mental wellness, all in a bid to reiterate government's commitment to the well-being of citizens.
I want to appreciate our Mr. Governor, who have been doing it very well, and we pray God is going to strengthen him.
It has gone a great deal in the life of our students. We want to say thank you, sir. God bless you. More grace to your health.
I would like to thank the PS and the governor for making glasses available and creating space for deworming and checking of dental health care.
We're also here to ensure that we pass on messages to them about their health and well-being, health education, how they should keep their surroundings clean, how they should continue to wash their hands to make sure they keep away diseases, how they must make sure that we've dewormed them today as well. That will protect them for another 3 months so that they thrive and grow properly.
Both the young and elderly are advised to imbibe a healthy lifestyle, carry out regular checkups in order to prevent unexpected medical expenses.
Well, African leaders are making a bold push for nuclear energy sovereignty, declaring that the continent's nuclear future must be designed, built and controlled by Africans themselves. At a major summit in Kigali, presidents and energy officials from across the continent called for stronger regional cooperation and investment in next-generation nuclear technology, including small modular reactors, seen as better suited to Africa's smaller power grids. From Togo to Tanzania to Rwanda, leaders stressed that nuclear energy must complement renewables like solar and hydro, forming a balanced strategy to tackle Africa's growing energy demands and reducing dependence on costly imports.
Political activist, entrepreneur and author Dr. Shaka Sisulu says Africa's long-term economic future will depend not only on policy reforms, but on the quality of leadership shaping business and governance.
A key aspect that came out of the research that I spent the past 5 years doing was that where key social actors from the political era or arena, from the economic arena and civil society arenas, where they work together, develop some sort of consensus, you find that in those instances, countries do a lot better. Leadership is extremely important.
At a time when many African governments are spending more on servicing debt than on development priorities, Dr. Sisulu shares some practical steps that African leaders and institutions can take to ensure debt remains sustainable while still driving growth and investment.
The steps that different countries take has to be dependent on their particular context. Some countries have to prioritize getting a handle on conflict and violence in their society. Other countries have to prioritize a rule of law.
I asked him whether he still has faith in African leadership. Here's what he had to say.
I personally think that, if you have many talented people feeling that they would like to change the narrative of their countries or their continent, then that's a good starting point, because those talented people will begin to deploy their talents in different ways that you and I may not be able to imagine. So I am more hopeful now, having spent time with such individuals, than even when I started the research.
This has been an insightful conversation indeed. Well, Dr. Sisulu says Africa's future will ultimately be determined by the choices its leaders make today as the continent navigates rising debt pressures and an increasingly uncertain global economic landscape. From Johannesburg, South Africa, Innocent Samosa, Channels Television News.
We do apologize for the mix-up in that report, but did you know that Botswana is home to one of the largest diamond industries in the world? In fact, diamonds make up a huge part of its economy, and the country has turned these natural resources into one of Africa's most stable and fast-growing economies. Even more interesting, Botswana has often been called one of Africa's biggest success stories in using natural wealth to build national development, schools and infrastructure. So in Botswana, diamonds don't just sparkle, they also help power a nation. That's it for Africa. Thanks for watching.
This week on Just Nigeria,